Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Apex Formula One podcast. Here we are, preseason testing. We've got a whole bunch of interesting little tidbits for you this morning, and we're going to sprinkle in a little Daytona 500 action at the end that I did not watch, but my lovely co-host did. So I'll introduce them now. We've got Paul on my far left. Paul, how are you
He's
doing this
busy
morning,
on
bud?
Instagram,
I
Josh.
know. That's exactly
Guys,
why I went to him. I
we're
was trying
busy
to
in
get,
IG.
I was like, I'm
Way
going
to
to get
stop.
in before this.
Way to stop me from hitting send. Good morning, everybody. The coffee's kicking in. It is a bright and early morning, and I can't wait to talk motorsports.
Perfect. And in my middle, I've got Meredith. Meredith, how are you doing from a different location than normal?
Yeah, coming to you live from Dallas, Texas. It worked out great that y'all could hop on and record in the morning so that I could join. I wouldn't have wanted to miss all the preseason talks. So yeah, doing good. Dallas, Texas, glorious weather. Great week to talk about some racing. It's been fun to talk with all my coworkers here about the other coworkers I have that watch F1. We've all been nerding out, so it's been a good week.
You guys
Yeah,
remember
super
the game show Where is Carmen Sandiego? We need to
Yeah.
do a version of that for Meredith. Where is Meredith this time?
Just have a
I had a
map
friend
with like a little pin.
pins.
Just
I
hold
had a
up the
friend
map.
message me and was like, "Can we go on a double date soon?" And I was like, literally sent her my calendar for the next 2 months. And I was like, "Yes, I've got like 3 days open."
Yeah, I got a random date sometime in March.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
that's
very
just how it
fortunate you
goes.
could jump on with us this morning because if not, you just have Paul and I talking about random stuff. And
It
it's
would
always better
y'all
when you're here
Paul
with
would
with no-
probably
structure.
not try to pimp himself out to a new podcast for once. He'd actually
I'm-
wouldn't
That's
even make
true.
that joke once.
That's
Paul,
probably
what's
true.
funny though,
Pimp
some people
myself.
called you out on social media last week. Like they were like, does Paul even listen? Like you're just like in some of the clips, you're just like on your phone or like zoned out.
I
No,
listen.
he's sending his resume to other podcasts. He's too busy.
I
Well,
am.
maybe we can get your attention today because you got some NASCAR that I know you enjoyed watching, and we get to talk about it a little bit.
Listen, yeah, we'll get into it. The Daytona
We'll get into
500
it.
was fun. I still have questions on how it all works, but so far I definitely enjoyed it.
Well, we'll get into that here in a little bit. But first, we've got some preseason testing in Formula One to discuss. Today starts the second week of the testing, but we'll discuss the first week and then we'll get into the second week next time around. So we had a lot of, a big week of rumors and a big week of some speculation. It's been a kind of a difficult week, a lot of people would say. Several teams very much so on the struggle bus. The power units are not working. Their cars are stalling. Drivers are complaining. What was your guys' opinions on some of the comments we heard, at least from the drivers specifically, about this regulation cycle and how the car actually feels?
Meredith, I'll let you can go first.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was quite shocked. I think, if we as fans were really, really hopeful for improvements with 2026 regulations, I think drivers were too. And to hear them being so blunt and honest about the difficulty of the performance of these cars, the unreliability, the issues with the batteries, like not being able to hold power. I really only heard one person say like really positive things, and it wasn't even a positive thing about themselves. They said like, if I can think of any driver that would benefit from these regulation changes and what we've experienced from one, it would be Lewis Hamilton. I think it was like maybe it was Albon that said it, but somebody was just saying like the car and the way it feels to drive it seems like very similar to what Lewis Hamilton's style of driving would be suited for. So I feel like that's the only like really positive nugget I have to take from what the driver said about the car last week. If there's hope for Lewis, then I'm okay.
Yeah, it's been overwhelmingly negative. It's been like you said, it's been disappointing for people who have expected like a large change in the way that the racing happens and the amount of overtaking and just the enjoyment of a race. But it seems like we're going to even struggle to have cars complete full laps at full speed. So very, very concerning, honestly. Paul, how do you think?
So it's kind of a twofold, right? I think we're at a time, especially last week with the 3 days of testing. It's kind of tough, right? Because I think teams are not trying to give away too much information. I still think they're trying to withhold some power left in the car. I don't think there was any one team that was like, we're going to be the fastest, just because they're trying to hold back on some of the stuff. To me, the more telling was just how unfamiliar the drivers are with what's going on with the battery issue, with all the stuff going on. Lewis said it best. It's like you almost need a mechanical engineering degree to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and imagine not even having a race engineer.
Mm,
Mm.
mm.
And yeah, talk about a complete fucking mess up there on Ferrari's part. But so to me, that's kind of the big telling part is 6 days going to be enough for them to figure out what they need to do for Australia coming up here first week in March? I mean, it seems, they have a lot of time to test, 3 more days of hour-long testings, but is that going to be enough for them to familiarize themselves for a race that's coming up here in a couple weeks? So it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. I think it seems like it's going to be a very big undertaking for what they have to accomplish in the next 3 days.
Yeah, and to some extent, I think that that's to be expected from a regulation change, right? In years past, we've seen it. It takes, maybe half a season for even the top running teams to kind of get a grip with the car and to really try to fully, you maximize the potential out of the regulation cycle. But this one just particularly seems a little bit more difficult than what we've seen in years past. And my concern is, as vocal as the drivers and team principals have been during the testing period, it's very concerning because whatever they're saying in public, they're probably saying 10 times more in private. And so if this is what we're being fed as the fans on the back end of this, in the public eye, I'm very concerned about what those internal meetings are looking like. So that would be my biggest fear now is we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg here with how much difficulty there is with these teams trying to draw any power out of these cars. For those who don't know, we had a lot of cars that were even struggling to maintain a race pace. The Honda engine that's running in the Aston is rough. It's really bad. We've seen a lot of very, very sad looking faces on Fernando Alonso and Papa Stroll.
I mean, they're 4 seconds off the lead, and
Right.
is that necessarily the power engine, or is that Adrian Newey's new revolutionary aerodynamic package that he's bringing out with? So it's like,
Well, as much
what
as
is it really?
it seems like that car is struggling to even stay on half the time, so I'm going to go with more power unit issues than Adrian
I
Newey.
agree. I think just like seeing what like you said, Josh, even seeing the last few years, Thomas Stroll has like walked into paddocks and garages with confidence. He gives that like Canadian Bond villain vibe. Watching him like enter the media space and like going into the paddocks and stuff, these last few images that I saw, he's like hunched over, downtrodden, like he looks devastated. Like at one point, him and Adrian Newey passed each other and didn't even speak. And of course, those are little moments that we see. We don't see everything, but I mean, just based on Fernando Alonso's reactions, and like I think right now, Aston Martin is my biggest letdown. Unless they have something that they're like keeping, holding their cards close to their chest, and they were just like really kind of trying to pull one over. That would be quite the media stunt, in my opinion. I just am quite shocked with how, they said specifically in the 2025 season, Adrian Newey was not involved and that he was focusing on the 2026 car, right? So if they had Adrian Newey and a team and they recruited some of the best, how is it so shockingly bad? I think that's where I'm confused. And maybe I don't understand enough of the new technical changes that are happening. But with all the brain power and the talent that made Red Bull what it was now being with Aston Martin, it's just kind of shocking to me.
Yeah, and there's other teams that are feeling the heat as well, but I feel like Aston's particularly downtrodden right now. We've seen every team's going to be kind of disappointed, and especially with the regulations the way they are, and no one's truly figured them out. So there's always going to be a lot of people that are disappointed in certain things. Um, I would say that right now, to me, the biggest concern is the race starts. Did you guys see some of the stuff about talking about race starts and all this stuff? Like,
The Ferrari video I sent you guys.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, did you see Fred Besser's comments? And
Yeah,
they're
because
the
Fred's
team.
like, I flagged this last year. He was like, I flagged this. Y'all didn't want to do anything about this. Y'all wouldn't back me. And now you want to change it? He's like,
He's like, no, we
like,
recognized this was going to be a problem. We fixed the problem,
we
or
fixed
at
it.
least we minimized it as
Yeah.
best that we could from an engineering standpoint. Well, now we're not going to let you guys get just bailed out by a change to the regulations after we've spent time and money creating a fix. So, for those who don't know, this new regulation cycle removed a piece of the powertrain that helped keep the turbo spun. And at a race start, they're taking these cars to a really high RPM to try to build some boost. And since that component's not there any longer, there's a huge amount of turbo lag. So they're having to rev these engines to an even higher number than they were before for the race start. And this is so far has caused a lot of stalls, a lot of engine shutting down, very slow starts, which becomes a safety risk because the last thing you want is a car in the back of the grid at full speed hitting a car in front that's stalled out. So I'm concerned about that more than anything right now. That and the pace on a straight. So
I was
I
gonna
know.
say that message that you sent us about the pace on the streets and like the battery power not being able to maintain enough of it through those straights, and especially those three tracks that you sent that are usually super high speed corners where you've got the ability to make it down a long straight, high speed into a corner. Like those are going to be like when I think of Monza, I think of good racing. I think of long straights, fast turns, coming out of that first straight and a little, like those things that I love about racing and the challenges now with the 50/50 battery. But I love that Formula E is chiming in. Like, we've got an upgraded unit. Things are going great for us. So it's kind of funny to see like Formula E be like, call us if you got questions. People have been on Formula E for so many years, but it's been around for over a decade. They're doing it well. The racing is extremely exciting and competitive. So I love that Formula E is like, y'all are welcome to come learn, and they're like, Max, come anytime, come check us out anytime. So I think it's kind of funny, but I do think it's cool. And I do think they genuinely mean like, hey, we're happy to share like what we found that works for us. So I don't know. I think
But
it's
I
going to
think
be really interesting to see how the cars make it through these races down these straights to be competitive if the car can't even make it there.
But I think
Yep.
Max had some comments last week. It's Formula One is towing that line of Formula E and trying to go to electric. And are they a gas car or are they an electric car? It's like they're trying to tow both lines, and clearly, as of now, it doesn't seem to be working fine. And I think maybe they tried to revolutionize these regulations too much to the point that now it's costing them.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it really plays out for that first track. I mean, Australia is a good example where there's not a lot of opportunity for battery recharging, and that's an issue we've seen a lot of in Bahrain so far. Is having to lift and coast down a straight to charge a battery is absolutely insane to me. Uh, we have seen Max try to minimize this, which has been really interesting. I don't know if you've seen some of the onboards of Max driving. He's downshifting more into corners than he would normally, or at least in the last
Yeah, he's
regulation
usually
cycle.
really, really aggressive into those corners. So that's
So
interesting.
so he's very aggressive into him still, and actually even more so, I would say, because it puts so much more strain on the power unit. But he's downshifting to maintain RPMs to charge the battery. So he's downshifting to like first gear in some of these corners that could be taken in second
So
or
it'll,
third. So because it keeps the RPM spun up, which in turn charges the
yeah.
battery.
Oh, I hadn't
Maybe
seen that.
there is
That's so
something
interesting.
maybe there is something to be said about a change in driving style that may just need, the drivers may need to adapt to. That could be a potential, but I still don't see that fixing anything down a long straight. Imagine the straight at Baku or Vegas, some of the, or China here, and even earlier in the season. I would just hate to see cars slow down mid straight. Like number one, safety problem. Like you're expecting a car to be flying and it's doing half its pace.
Sorry, guys, my battery's dead.
Yeah,
Hold on, I
you
got to
gotta
pull over
stop.
to the side of the road.
Yeah, and I saw some commentary saying that the cars, and this could add a little bit of interest to it, where you may choose not to recharge your battery down that straight and try to build it up the rest of the lap, and you could overtake two or three cars on the end of a straight, and then try to defend the rest of the lap. So that maybe add a level of competitive nature to this, but I'm not confident in that either.
So interesting. What if we just get to Australia and it's just a shit show? What if we have like four cars that can't start? We lose three throughout the race because their battery dies and they can't get back to the pit straights. Like what if this is just, like I don't know why it's like the like circus music is playing in my head of like how iconic would that be if it was just like an absolute mess.
And to me, it's kind of sad that it's always considered the pinnacle of motorsports, right? F1 is a top of the top, and everybody wants to be a part of it. And it seems like they can't get their shit together, and it's kind of sad that we're having this conversation so close to the start of the year.
I
Yeah.
love that you were so ready. Like, I remember after
Nope,
our
I blame the no, I that yeah, I know what you're gonna say. I blame the two of you assholes for that because I was so excited going into the end of last year. I was like, new regulations, it's
like,
gonna be better racing. And you two
oh
assholes
my
were
god.
like, no, 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 no. I blame you two for putting out the bad juju out in the world. And
Oh
now
my
look what we
god.
gotta do.
You're like, I keep going back to Josh's phrase from 2 weeks ago, hopium. Like, the hopium was so strong here, and then the reality is setting in, and I'm like, "Damn." But, that's like I do have, like, glimmers of hope because like, Mercedes is clearly figuring it out. Like, Ferrari got a hold of it last week too. They did pretty well. Like, Lando put in some really good laps too. I mean, hell, even we had, some of the Williams throw in some really great laps a couple of times pretty consistently. So, it is interesting to see them getting a grip on it. I'm really excited for week 2. I'm not sure what adjustments were made over the weekend, so I'll be really excited to see what changes in terms of performance this week and to see if drivers feel a little bit more comfortable with the car, if any of the tweaks they've made, or like Josh, to your point of like what Max was doing, right? Maybe they learned some little tips like that last week that they're going to be able to apply to week 2. And then I think it's going to even be really exciting to see that jump from another 2 weeks to getting to Australia of like, hey, here's what we tweaked between week 1 and week 2 of testing. Here's what we saw improvements with. And then what are we going to go work on in the sim and the factories to get everything ready before Australia? I think that'll be really interesting to watch. I think my hopium will be gone if the drivers come out and teams come out and have the same reactions as they did last week. Like, if nothing improves from week 1 to week 2, that's going to be really, really really, really bumming.
We got so far live testing. I'm watching it live. It's a little less than 2 hours to go, and Lando, Charles, and George are top three.
Yeah.
So I
So
think
the
the
they
cars,
figured it out last week.
yeah, yeah.
He
So
did really great last week too. I'm like, hell yeah, Kimmy, get it.
yeah,
Yeah, and Fred Vesser said that he expected there to be like massive upgrades across the board for the second week of testing, and so I mean, I think there is some hope, and obviously we don't know who's holding back and who actually has something up their sleeve at the end of the day. All we can
Yeah, I
hope
mean,
for
you
is that
caught on
there's
to
good
one team
racing.
that was holding some stuff back in close testing. Um, I don't remember which team it was, but I was like,
Well,
it was something that I totally
it was
missed.
it was the Aston, and they weren't even running the car. They weren't even running the car at full pace. They could not run the car at full power settings. They were doing this on purpose. So were they holding anything back, or did they actually just have zero idea how that power unit works? I'm going to go with the latter.
How did
Unfortunately,
Cadillac do last week? I don't feel like I really heard any. I mean, I saw some lap times and stuff, but like I really didn't hear anything about Cadillac or Audi for that matter. And so it's like I kind of expected to hear a little bit more with the newer teams to the grid, Audi being new, replacing stick kip up pick up one, whatever. I expected to hear a little bit more, but like also I expected to see some media coverage with like Botas and Checo about like what it's like to be back or anything like that. So I was actually just kind of surprised by the absence of storylines around Cadillac coming out of week 1 of testing. What were y'all's thoughts on that?
I mean,
go ahead, Josh.
it looked like Cadillac was kind of just mid-table, so really nothing to write home about. Obviously, they're running that Ferrari power unit, so less issue with, um, less issues going on with the power unit stuff. I think more so just a lot of the team familiarization stuff going on. Uh, and then for Audi, I saw a lot of stuff about Audi struggling in turn 10, which is that really difficult downhill left hairpin. They very, very difficult time trying to get the car stopped and it turned into that corner. So I don't know if that's just a symptom of their car and they need to make some tweaks to the steering rack or or braking the brake bias or whatever they need to work on, but it wasn't very promising. I think that there's so many storylines on just the regulation cycle that it's hard to have any other storylines going on right now. It's just a lot of airtime is being devoted to can these cars work.
This morning, Cadillac is 20th in tours. Their lap times are not very good, but it's also day one of testing. And as for Meredith talking about like headlines and stuff coming out, maybe it was because we could only really watch the last hour of testing. So I'm sure a lot of teams were still keeping a lot of things behind. To me, the interesting part, and I don't know if you guys watched the Tech Talk on the F1 app, but it was interesting how almost every car has a different aero package. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's small little tidbits that some teams have added over others. And like I said last time we sat down and recorded, it's going to be a year of what team can adapt the quickest
Mhm.
and which engineers are willing to, are smartest to figure it out on the go because I don't want to say it, but I have a feeling it's going to be a dud at least to the first part of the year until some teams figure something out.
I actually disagree. It seems like Mercedes has this figured out more than anyone else. So I feel like we're going to see a strong dominance of Mercedes at the first of the season since their car seems to be performing the best. And then I think other teams are going to get a grip on it and then be able to come back and be a little bit more competitive maybe after a couple of races and getting it figured out. So I think like if there was ever a year for George Russell to be campaigning for a world championship, like started off strong at the beginning of the season. Or I'm thinking about like Oscar's start to the season last year and how Oscar had such a strong start and like really put him in a good position. And, Max at the beginning of last season was having an atrocious season and then made a historic comeback. But I could see George or, even Kimmy, damn, maybe it's going to be Kimmy, right? Like I could see Mercedes just really taking a strong lead at the beginning of the season while the other teams are getting their it figured out.
Well, we know who Meredith picks for her predictions for the year.
I
Easy.
talked
She's
about
been
it
saying that
last
for
week.
weeks.
I told y'all
Yeah.
last week. I said I'm hopping on the bandwagon.
Man,
I have no shame.
Yeah. I will give Paul, I think you're exactly right. I think this season's going to be a lot less on strict driver performance and a lot more who can do what when. It's if somebody's going to come out of the gate hot, it may be Mercedes, who knows? It could be just whoever's good that day. But I think there's going to be a pretty stark gap between the top 4 and the rest, right? I think out of the gate. And then it's going to the midfield at least is going to be 100% who adapts the quickest. That will determine the midfield and obviously your back markers out of that too. But the top 4, I think it's pretty much set who's going to be up there, right? Just based on who seems to have it figured out. I think that may be some driver performance stuff to separate them. But this is going to be a year a little bit more of engineering prowess than others, I think.
well, the big question with Mercedes, it's what's going to happen. Wow, I can't clear my throat. Is their big hearing today is about their power engine, the ratio. What is the FIA going to say on that? Are they going to rule in Mercedes' favor, or are they not? Are they going to have to completely redo this? So, the
It would
next
be
few days
so
is going to be
ridiculous.
very.
It
It's
would
going to
be
be very telling.
like
Yeah, I
I
don't think
just
they're going to change it. They
like
can't.
I think this is, and I can't remember if it was Josh or Paul that said it last week. Like I think it's going to be one of those situations where like, okay, you're good this year. Like you technically, but now we're going to enforce these regulations and moving forward. Kind of like I think somebody compared it to like the McLaren water, whatever. But I mean, like there's just it's so late for them to be making changes. Like I think this is something that would have needed to take place months ago. But what do I know?
Yeah, every
Fight is
regulation
Josh.
cycle. Every regulation cycle, there's somebody that pushes a boundary and ends up getting told no. A lot of times it's Mercedes, sometimes Ferrari, and then it's been McLaren in the past as well. So somebody's going to push the limit. It looks like Mercedes has figured out a loophole. I think the FIA in the past has looked at this and said, all right, technically, yes, you weren't breaking the rules, but next time around, we're not doing that. And they're called the spirit of racing. I doubt they'll, especially this late into the testing phase, I doubt they're just going to be like, well, no, actually, you can't do that. So rebuild your engines.
Well, the other question with Mercedes is as of 24 hours ago, the Petronas racing fuel has not been approved by the FIA. The sustainable fuel manufacturer for Mercedes is racing against time to get its fuel approved for 2026. So it's
I
it's
wonder
going to
what
be
the big
interesting.
modifications would be in the fuel from 2025 to 2026 and why it wouldn't be approved.
Well, I mean, they're using a whole different fuel blend.
Is
I don't know
Because
what
it's supposed to be like a sustainable fuel source.
it's like 100% sustainable. I don't know what their qualification process is like, what they have to go through to like get it, approved. I wonder what that is. I wonder what is holding them up on that front.
It's just a mess right now.
Yeah, when's WEC start?
When's WEC start? Here in a few weeks.
Yeah, March the 28th. I already
My
know.
favorite.
I sent you guys the article so you guys can read.
WEC starts in Qatar
I think it's the 28th of
in
March.
March. Yeah, last weekend of March. But we've got Sebring the weekend before that for IMSA.
Perfect.
You'll be back in the game. I
Good, it
really
gives me
think you
something
would
to
like
look forward to.
MotoGP too, Josh. I think you would enjoy a MotoGP race.
I probably would.
I think you should watch a highlight reel on YouTube of a MotoGP race and see what you think, because I think you would like that one too.
I watched a few races last year. I think I watched Austria maybe. It
Yeah,
was
Austria is an
pretty decent.
awesome one. And it's like they run a little bit of a different track for the MotoGP than they do the F1, so it's kind of cool. it's like they alter it slightly, but I really like that one. I'm just like it. I feel like I'm just at that time of year where there's just like the racing buzz, like of course, like it's a different year with. I feel like these are bigger regulation changes than the previous ones. Like what was it, 2022 when they changed like, before, but it wasn't like massive. It wasn't, and it didn't feel like an entirely different car back then. And so I feel like this is just different with F1, but it's like NASCAR's back on. I'm 1 month to IndyCar here in Arlington. Like I'm all excited at St. Pete before that, so I just feel like it's that
Yeah,
time was. But I'm like F1 being my favorite. I'm like, it kind of takes the air out of my sails a little bit with like being like I feel like I'm like almost worried.
yeah, it does. It does make you a little worried going into it because the clock is ticking, and we have 3 more days. Or after today, there's an hour or so left. There's 2 more days of testing, and then it's Australia. There isn't a lot of time left, and we've completely revolutionized these cars. It's completely different. We got it's not just like drivers like Lance Stroll and Alex Albon talking about the car. You got heavy hitters like Max and Lando and Lewis saying this car is different. It's completely unknown. You try to be a little optimistic that the pinnacle of racing can get it figured out, but anyone that's a consumer like we are that watches it all the time, I think we can read in between the lines, and it's going to be interesting.
Only time will tell. Week 2. I mean, who knows?
Hmm.
Next week when we're recording, we could be talking a completely different narrative after week 2. Like we could see some crazy stuff have happened. Y'all are talking about how important the engineering is going to be. I do think that some of these teams have some of the best engineers in the world. So who knows? There could have been major changes over the weekend. We could see massive improvements this week. We could see drivers really dialing in more to the little tips and tricks. So who knows? Week 2 could bring totally different things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
only
you very
time will
well
tell.
could. Well, we will pay attention and watch and try to bring it to you guys next week with hopefully a lot better attitude towards it, just because I want to see fun racing in Formula One. It's what, made me fall in love with motorsport,
Me
and,
too.
and I'd hate to see it just kind of crumble, especially, this early into a season because it's a long season. So I really want to be able to sit and watch it and, love it just like I always have. So hope for the best. You guys want to move on to some Daytona 500? Talk about just everybody just wrecks at the end and just some random guy in the midfield wins because that's super exciting.
Before we do that, though, IndyCar started testing this week.
Mm,
Yesterday was their first day of testing. David Malukas, who is now moved up to a top team, he got first in testing in Phoenix. It was just announced that Roman Grosjean, I can't never pronounce
Grosjean.
that last name. Yeah,
Grosjean.
Grosjean.
that guy. He's gonna drive for Dale Coyne. I have mixed feelings about it. Just because yes, I think he's a great driver, but god damn is he
They
a
wanted
whiny
Connor
guy.
Daly.
I wanted Connor Daly, but Roman is just so whiny. Every time, like for the last couple of years when he was in Indy, it was everyone else's fault except for his when he went off the track or he wrecked. And I just got tired of that whiny ass radio from him. But money talks, and he brought more money into the
I
team
was gonna
than
say he had to have been
Connor
bringing good
Daly.
sponsorships.
So, good for that. And some of the commercials came out for for Pillow and Willpower. I really like the Willpower commercial.
The willpower one is so, so great.
Yeah,
I liked the
it
Alex
was.
Palou one too. I mean,
I
it
didn't.
just like it could have been anyone though. Like it didn't feel Alex Palou to me. Like it felt like they could have put any driver in that. Like Will Powers felt like Will Powers, but like I don't know, Alex Palou's was like they could have picked any driver off the grid and it would have like put them in that commercial and it would have been fine.
Yeah, so IndyCar is definitely ramping up. We got 10 days or 9 days now until St. Petersburg, and then we move on to IndyCar.
Yeah,
I can't
last
wait.
year, one of my coworkers, he was like, "Oh, we always go out to St. Pete and we watch the race from the boat. You got to come." And I'm like, "I need you to formalize that invite. I need you to be like, hey, come in town. Like, I need a formal invite for St. Pete next year." So I'm going to be working on that of like locking that in. I'm like,
Nice.
let's make that
Don't
official.
forget you. Yeah, don't forget you got a +2 you got to bring with.
Hey, get a little house, a little Airbnb in St. Pete, watching a race on a
Yeah,
boat. That sounds awesome.
That
yeah,
works.
It
yeah.
works.
Should
I
be
I'm
do
in.
fun.
do have some breaking news coming in,
Oh boy,
actually. So the
this
FIA,
is
New sound, breaking news, do
that's
Super
yeah.
Nate.
If we why don't we have breaking news music?
I know we should have like a soundboard.
Breaking
All
news,
right.
give it
So
to us.
So the FIA has released an official statement regarding their power unit conversation this morning.
Hold on, state your source before, so we don't get
The
copyright infringement.
FIA
Excellent.
actual
FIA, this is a
page.
statement read by the
This
FIA.
is straight up from them. So this
FIA
is
official.
directly from the FIA official's Instagram page. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but basically it says that they've discussed collaboratively to develop a method to quantify how compression ratio changes from an ambient temperature to operating conditions. So it says, following validation of this approach, proposal's been submitted where from August the 1st, compliance with compression ratio must be demonstrated at not only ambient temperature, but also at operating temperature. So that would handle the loophole. So this has been submitted to the power unit manufacturers for a vote. They all vote on it. So I can imagine there's going to be one no and the rest yes. So then I would imagine that, and it says in the next 10 days, you're expected to see the update. So I would go with August after the summer break. That will no longer be allowed.
Yeah,
So
so
you
they've
can
got
have,
until August.
I would say that will be pretty well a foregone conclusion that August will be the end of the allowed loophole. Interesting. Very interesting.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Mercedes,
we definitely know who's going to vote no on that one.
yeah,
100%.
they're going to vote no, 100%. No one's going to be like, yeah, you know what? Let Mercedes have their moment. Like,
Let's
It'll
get
be
'em out of
interesting.
it.
It'll be interesting to see what Honda and Ferrari say.
Yeah, interesting. I'm like, I know exactly what they're gonna say.
yeah,
They're gonna
hell
be like,
no,
hell
hell
no.
no.
You think they're all just gonna be like, you know what? Let's give this one to George. We've watched him for years. He just cries so much. Let's give him one. Let's throw him a bone.
They're going to be like, Mercedes, that was so clever. You guys got us this time. We'll get it next time. Good job.
Dang. Good job, guys. You really got me there.
Like, I really
Yeah.
didn't think of that one. So,
But
anyway,
yes, back to Daytona.
Was this
Great
your
race.
Daytona 500 to watch?
Yes, and I didn't get a chance to watch it because I was at work and somebody decided to call.
Are you saying that for
911.
legal purposes? Because I know you definitely were watching some of it.
I was watching some of it, but I couldn't watch the last 10 laps because somebody called 911 and I had to go do my job.
You know, y'all are out here saving lives. Y'all are doing the important stuff. And then I at home can fill you in on the non-important stuff.
Yeah, but it
balance.
was fun. I still don't quite understand the stages. It's still a little weird to understand, and you get points for being
Mhm.
towards the top after a stage.
Yep.
I'm still not quite understanding how that works.
Yeah. So I actually appreciate the stages, you know, because I just started watching NASCAR a few years ago. Like, I mean, I watched as a kid, but like, I don't remember watching any of it with my stepdad as a kid. But I think that, you know, what I appreciate about the stages is that it's like, I almost feel like I get 3 races in one. Like, because there is something to be rewarded for in each stage. There are points that you earn along the way. But I also think it kind of creates that opportunity for a little bit more chaos, which I kind of like. You know, I know that somebody posted online that was like, if you like this last NASCAR race, then you just like crashing. You don't like racing. I'm like, well, you ain't wrong. I like racing, but I like crashing too. Because you know what? Like, the reality of NASCAR is like crashes happen and a race can change in a second in NASCAR. I mean, those last 6 laps were the most chaotic, biggest mayhem I've ever seen. Someone slips slightly, goes into the wall, and all of a sudden 6 cars are out. It changes everything. But you know, you were watching at one point, and I think it was Bubba Wallace was stage 2 win, right? And you thought Bubba Wallace was going to win the whole thing. It's how quickly it can change. You know, like you can have a driver that leads 95% of the race. One person slips in their rears and then all of a sudden they're out, you know? So I think that's why I like it because it could just change at any point. So I thought it was really exciting. Did you
Well,
ever go back and rewatch those?
I did. It was pretty chaotic. I did not have Tyler Reddick to win this race, and just you know, at a blink of an
I
eye,
really
2
like Taylor
cars,
Reddick
3
though.
cars. No, I like him a lot too. I just did not have him slotted to win this race because that he didn't look like a top driver most of the race, but it just at one turn everything goes to hell. And much like you said, when
Okay,
you're
but like
riding 3 wide,
how he navigated that was he literally just like was like, no, me. He threaded the needle there.
listen, being a spotter in NASCAR's got to be the most stressful job because just to
I'd
be
have a
able to
heart attack.
direct the driver. I do find it funny though that in the O'Reilly series. But then remember, I don't know if you guys were paying attention to all the lawsuits that were coming out. NASCAR called that owner of the team that won. I can't think of his name. They called him a dumb redneck, and he won the first race of this year. And then Michael Jordan with 2311, he ended up winning the first race of this year. So I'm not saying it's scripted, but I think the script is pretty cool that the two people that were talked shit about the most in NASCAR trials won the first race of the year.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I'm super happy for 2311 Racing. Like we had talked a lot about them and everything that was happening with their case. And, honestly, I like even thinking about like Denny Hamlin coming back and racing this season after, what happened with his family after losing the championship last year was a lot. So I was happy to see 2311 get a Daytona 500 win. I would have loved for it to be Bubba, but I love Tyler Reddick too. So I was super pumped for them, just like watching that team celebrate and watching Denny be so genuinely happy for Tyler and watching how Denny spoke to his team about that. And, he wanted to win it too, So I think that's always such an interesting dynamic, but I think it's such a cool to start out the season. But also Jimmy Johnson announced his retirement and I was like this is going to be his last season. And I was like, we had a lot happen in a Daytona 500 weekend. And Dale Earnhardt tribute was beautiful, 25 years. So overall, exceptional Daytona 500 for you.
And especially because last year Tyler Reddick had such an off year, he didn't win it all. It was tough. So for him and the team, it was we got to do something this year. So for him to get his first win at a Daytona 500,
Prove that
which
point.
huge. Yeah. And, it meant a lot to Michael Jordan. You saw the emotion in him. You saw him crying, holding the trophy really brought back those images of him winning in the NBA. So it was just cool all around. I'm still getting used to how long these races are. Man, it seemed like it took forever sometimes.
That's kind of why I like the stages because I'm like, after stage one, if I just need a break, I need like, I love that they're on Sunday afternoons because it's like I can go out and, do my chores, do my errands and come back and I still have an hour and a half of the NASCAR race left.
It's almost like watching the Masters on TV. You could take a nap through the middle part, and right when you wake up, they're at the 18th hole, and you're like, dude, I got a chance to watch the ending. So it's kind of cool on that.
Yeah, we were watching on a split screen viewer because we were watching both golf tournaments and the NASCAR race. And then I saw it again and I was like, no, Joe, the golf tournament has so many holes left. Like, go to the Daytona 500. I want the audio for that. And I was like, what a finish. And then the second it finished, I wanted to watch the trophy celebration. Joe let me watch Tyler's burnout. And then he was like, all right, we're going back to the golf tournament. So then I'm on my phone watching the rest of it. It was great though. But yeah, I'm excited we got Atlanta this weekend for NASCAR. So that'll be a great race. It'll be interesting to see who takes this W. I mean, it's always
were they at this week?
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm into it. I still haven't picked a team. I'm kind of leaning towards 2311, so we'll see.
I like 2311 as well. I think with NASCAR, I have found that it's easier for me to like drivers than teams. Like I have drivers that I like on the grid. I really like Carson Hocevar. I like how aggressive he is. I love that he's like, no friends in this sport. I don't need any friends. Like I'm just out here doing this for me. I like Tyler Reddick. I like Bubba Wallace. I really like Christopher Bell. I think people really, really, really don't appreciate him enough for the driver he is. He's kind of like the underdog and he's just kind of like this quiet little assassin. So I really like him a lot too. Kyle Larson's always entertaining.
Oh, absolutely. Also, Connor Zillage, the kid is like 19.
Connor's killing it. He's going to do so great in Cup Series this year. I watched him last year in the Cup Series. So it's really fun to see him move up, and I can't wait to see what he does.
I couldn't imagine being 19 and having that level of responsibility on my shoulders.
No, and what he's already won is insane. What he won throughout his career is just absolutely diabolical. And like Red Bull, good on you. Like incredibly marketable driver. Great job.
100%. Yeah. They're coming to Nashville, so I'm going to try to see if I can find some time
That'd
to
be a
go
fun one.
to watch that race in Nashville. I'm off that day, so should be fun.
Well, guys, I got to go down and get ready to talk the world of toilet paper, paper towels, and CRM systems,
You go do your thing, Michael Scott. Go sell your paper and are you more of a Michael Scott or are you more of a Dwight?
I like to think I'm a little bit more like John Krasinski's character. Like I bring the
You're
humor,
more of
but
a
I can
Jim.
lock it in and get the sales, Like
Fair enough.
But I do, like I feel like I have my Dwight Schrute here. I have my Dwight that I like to kind of punk. So, it's all in fun. All in good fun.
Fair enough. But yeah, we got anything else? I think that kind of wraps it up for
No,
the
I think
day.
that's about
Yeah,
it.
y'all keep me posted if there's any breaking news. My phone will be on do not disturb, but like, you know, I'll keep checking it on breaks and stuff.
Keep me posted. I'm
Alright.
not going to see it, but keep me posted.
Yeah.
Well,
You just
I'll
open
step
to
out and
100
check it
text
on breaks,
messages.
you know? Like, I want to come back to 30 unread messages from my boys.
Breaking news, Lewis is still in the mid-pack. He still can't get above 5th. So Ferrari's already in mid-season shape. So
Hey, it's Lunar New Year, and it is the year of the fire horse. So, you know, that could be a really good omen, y'all.
That's fair. I'll
I
give you that.
I don't know anything about what that means, but it's all over Instagram that it's the year of the fire horse. So our little prancing ponies could have a shot at this, Paul.
Kim Kardashian's going to bring him good luck this year.
She might.
She might. Who knows? Okay, boys. Well, I hope y'all have a great week. We'll stay
Yeah,
in touch
we'll-
with breaking news on social media.
Yeah, we'll check out on what's going on this week, and we'll bring it back to you next week. So I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you hopefully Monday.
Bye, everybody.
Later, guys.
All right, see y'all.